Hi everyone, it's Joanne here with my lockdown hair, but enough about that. Thanks for subscribing, and I've loved seeing all your pictures and reading all your feedback as well. And I think one of the most important things about the feedback is that people are saying that they're loving these little bite-sized lessons rather than something that's going to take hours to paint. So yeah, nice results in a very short space of time. And today I thought I'd paint my little favourite bug, which is a ladybird. I'm going to be using Brusho, but you can also do this in watercolour as well. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So come and join me in the studio. If you are enjoying these lessons, then please do share with other people who you think might enjoy them, or subscribe, or even like. Any of that would be great and much appreciated. So let's go into the studio and paint this little bug. So here you can see a couple of little ladybirds that I've been playing around with the Brusho. And what we're going to do today is produce one nice, juicy, colourful ladybird. Let me go through the materials I'm going to be using today. I'm going to be using my spray bottle. I'm just using two colours of Brusho. I'm using the black and the brilliant red. You can use any red, but the brilliant red's quite nice. I'm also using a piece of candle wax. You could use a piece of a white crayon as well, but I like to smash up bits of candle wax and use those, so that's handy. And I'm not going to use a palette, I'm just going to use a scrap of paper. And the paper that I'm using is a Bockingford paper, and I'm using the same paper to mix the colour on as I am to do the demonstration on. Let's just lift that away. So you can see that I've got my ladybird drawn out onto the paper. There's lots of free reference photographs that you'll find on Google of ladybirds, so you can just choose any of those and draw your ladybird out, or you can just take a copy of this one and use my reference drawing as a guideline. So once your drawing's down, we can take a little bit of wax and you can put a little highlight onto your ladybird. There are a few light areas as well that I'd like to kind of highlight, so maybe just a little here. Maybe the light's catching on his little wing here on the right hand side, so I'm just gently pushing the wax into the paper. I mean, you can go crazy with this. You could put it against all these little legs as well. I want to keep these two areas white, so I could either use the wax or we can kind of very carefully paint around them, so let's do that. Also, I forgot to mention I'm using a size 8 brush. It's a Kolinsky Sable brush, size 8. I've got my water pot, nice clean water, and first of all, we'll start off with a red wash. So we'll put a little bit of red onto the scrap of paper here, and we'll just mix that around. And we'll start to block in the red of the wings. Now at this point you can see that I've drawn the little circles where we're going to put the little black dots. Don't worry at this point about trying to paint around them. Just paint right over them, because you'll find that the black is extremely strong. And you can paint right over that red area. Just carefully blocking that shape in. And you can see already it's a lovely luscious colour. And can you see here as well? That's where I put the wax resist, and I put a couple of little dots here as well. So you can see that I didn't press too hard, and it's just picking up the light grain of the paper. There we go. So we're supposed to wait for this to dry, really. I am quite impatient and never want to wait for anything to dry. So I'm going to go straight in. But if you want to be a little bit more cautious than me, then wait for this area to dry before you go on to the next stage. I'm going to take some of the black. And really, with Brusho, you only need a little bit. You really do. It goes a long, long way. There we go. And we're going to paint into this section here. Now, I know the red's wet, so I have to be extremely careful. might leave a tiny little gap between the black and the red, because I actually don't want the black to run into the red. There we go. So once you've got that in, we can start then to put his little legs in. And really all I'm doing is just pushing the black into the leg shapes. There we go, there's one. Again, careful of the red, it's still wet. Pushing that little shape into the leg. There's another one. Oops. I think I've gone into the red a little bit though. It's not the end of the world. There we go. I've got a few little leaks here where the black has actually run into the red wash. At this point, it's probably best not to fiddle with it. You're just going to make it worse. Let's put his little antennae shapes in as well. Okay, so now we really do need to let this dry before we go on to the next stage. Okay, our ladybird is nice and dry. And you can see it's far from perfect. You know, I've got these little black bits here that have bled into the red. But don't let things like that worry you. Let's just plod on, carry on. Let's take some more of the red and let's give this another coat. Let's make it a little bit redder. Be careful, by the way, when you're mixing your colours like this on the paper. Try and keep them fresh, so away from one another. And another important point as well, if you haven't got Brusho, you can do this exercise with watercolour, just the same. I'm going to do a little bit of sprinkling towards the end, so that would be a little bit difficult with the watercolour. But to get to a nearly finished stage, you could use watercolour, it isn't a problem. There we go. So it's kind of got that nice lustre back, hasn't it? I'm afraid we have to let it dry again. So give me a second and let's let it dry. Now it's time to put his little red or his little black spots in. We'll start at the top because it's easy to work from the top to the bottom. So I'm just blocking those shapes in with the black. That's simple. Remember the ones on the sides, by the way, they're going to be more of an ellipse. And the ones on top are going to be more round. Just a couple more. We'll put one here, maybe one here. We also need to include the lovely little line down the middle where his wings are going to separate. So we'll start at the top here and we'll pull that wash down to a nice fine line at the bottom like that. Now at this point, if you've got any little bits that you want to touch up, for instance, you want to go back into the legs, or you want to tidy his little head up a bit, now is the time to be doing this. I just think I like to darken that section and get rid of that white line that I put in before. There we go. That's better. And really, if you are painting this with watercolour, then your little ladybird is actually done. But let's be a little bit adventurous and let's sprinkle and spray our butterfly, no, our ladybird. So let's wait for it to dry first and then we'll continue. Okay, so we're nice and dry again. Are you ready to be a little bit adventurous? I always am. I never worry too much when I'm playing around with Brusho because if you're using a decent paper, you can take a bit of watered down bleach or Milton, and actually it's quite good at lifting the colour away. So if you make mistakes, you can always kind of go back and try and fix them. I'm hoping we don't make any mistakes, but you never know with Brusho. It's so unpredictable. I think one of the biggest tips I can give you is to go sparingly with it. So with that in mind, I'm going to take the red and I'm going to very gently just tap just a few little crystals onto the paper. Now that doesn't seem a lot, but believe you me, that is a lot. So we're going to take our spray bottle. I've got a little cloth here as well, so I can just kind of dab it down if I need to. And we're going to very gently, from a height, don't do it too close. You're going to take the water bottle and you're just going to give it a little spritz. This for me is where it kind of gets a bit magic, because I love the combination of the blacks and the reds fusing together. Oh, nice. There we go. So obviously you can see what's happening now. Things are starting to happen, aren't they? Little fuzzy bits are starting to appear. If they're getting a bit out of control, just take a cloth or a bit of kitchen roll, place it on your picture and just give it a little bit of a press down. So you're just soaking up that excess paint. Shall we see if it's worked? There we go. Oh yes, I like it. I like it because what it's done is it's given us lots of texture in these areas. And there you go. Nice and simple. Have a go. Just 2 colours. You could fill a whole page full of crazy ladybirds. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, then please do remember to tick that red subscribe button at the bottom of the screen, and then you'll get notifications of when I post my next lessons. Thanks a lot. Stay safe. Bye.